The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take us into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era.
That, of course, was Kathleen Kennedy, president of Lucasfilm under the Walt Disney Company, back on December 10th of 2020, announcing a show that would live in mystery for the next couple of years. The Acolyte, headed by former Harvey Weinstein assistant Leslye Headland. Now, a lot has been discussed over this show in the past several years since it was announced, but it looks like at this point it is finally happening. And we're going to go through some of the data today, the actual hard, cold facts that show, yes, this show is actually going on, and it is coming to Disney Plus in 2024, which is obviously a lot more than we can say for Damon Lindelof's movie at this point, which has been canceled again.
Nice. Nice. Not thrilling, but nice.
Now, I'm sure there's some folks watching this wondering, Valiant, why are you even making a video like this? The series is on the slate. I understand that at this point, but I need to go back and take a walk down memory lane to explain how we got here and why we are doing this video. You see, like many Star Wars projects in the last several years, in fact, since the release of The Rise of Palpatine in 2019, we have often joked, quite accurately, on the failings of Kathleen Kennedy as the president of Lucasfilm. And like so many projects that have been announced or at least hinted at in certain trade publications over the years, it was a pretty easy bet that this, like so many other of those projects, would probably never come to fruition even after being announced. We have seen this time and time again. But I have been getting peppered with more and more questions and comments on YouTube videos, on Twitter and social media about, is the Acolyte actually really happening? Well, today we're going to go through all of the data that shows absolutely unequivocally, yes, it is unfortunately coming to Disney Plus. Now, how good it will be at this point is anybody's guess. Nobody can deny some of the talent that they have in the cast for this show, but we've seen time and time again with Disney Plus across the board and the Walt Disney Company in general that even the best cast in the world doesn't matter, particularly when you don't hand them very good scripts and subject matter that doesn't interest the audience, as we've seen evident with the High Republic era, a failed book and comic book series that was developed by Lucasfilm. Get ready, because we're about to put the Acolyte through the business and financial lens of reality. Renegade Online. Well, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel at Valiant Renegade, please make sure you turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on your favorite social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door. Today, we are talking the Acolyte, and we are taking a walk down memory lane, as I mentioned in the intro. So here's the nitty-gritty. Back when this show was announced in late 2020, as I mentioned earlier, I was very skeptical. But as time went on, I said, look, maybe this show might actually happen one day. Maybe this is part of Kathleen Kennedy's contract. She gets creative control over at least one project like this that is Star Wars, after we've seen Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni kind of take the reins on nearly everything else. That was a rumor put out there by some folks that we trust. And look, we have to run with our best gut feeling on things at the time. But one of the things as time went on that I qualified with, I said, look, if the Acolyte actually winds up happening, it's not going to probably look like anything it was originally intended to do. Now, as a reminder, what the Acolyte was originally rumored to be, quite heavily as a matter of fact, was the Star Wars vehicle for Brie Larson to become one of the most powerful Jedi of all time. Go back and look it up. It was out there for quite a while. And of course, Brie Larson's star kind of shrunk considerably during that time. In fact, she wound up taking a long hiatus from YouTube after she elicited a lot of backlash from fans and a lot of cringe moments on there. And then, of course, we're looking at Captain Marvel 2. The Marvels coming out later this year. Brie Larson no longer headlining her own character film. They had to bring in two other supporting people to prop it up, change the title because apparently Brie Larson can't carry a movie on her own anymore. Well, it makes sense now. She's not even part of the Acolyte, and they've moved on, although the era of the story of the High Republic has maintained. And certainly Disney has tried to add some legitimate star power to this show, The Acolyte, from everything we know. People like Carrie Ann Moss and people like Lee Jung-Jae, which if that's a name that you don't recognize right off the bat, I don't blame you. But I promise you, most of the people watching this video will have seen what he was in on Netflix. Matter of fact, he led the biggest streaming show of all time, at least according to Netflix, and that was Squid Game. So Disney and Lucasfilm, to their credit, have tried to make the best with this show, giving it some real drawing star power. And we don't know, of course, how good or how bad this show will be, and it's going to be another year at this point before we see it. But let's walk back and figure out at this point how we got to where we are, because at some point down that memory lane, I started hedging my bet, and I said, listen, if this show actually gets into physical production, meaning there's a cast and a crew on the ground with cameras rolling, then I'll believe it's actually happening. Well, late last year in November of 2022, we got word that indeed it was. From StarWars.com on November 7th, the Acolyte original series cast revealed. And if we scroll down, we can see that list. And there it is, Amanda Stenberg, Lee Jung-Jae, and then one other person of note we haven't mentioned yet besides Carrie Ann Moss is Dean Charles Chapman. He was the member of a highly nominated Oscar film, 1917. He played one of the two leads in that, absolutely one of my most favorite films I have ever seen in my life, and he was excellent in it. Hopefully, he too will bring some gravitas to this show. And then on that very same day, The Acolyte was updated on IMDb Pro. We can see that the announcement on April 22nd of 2020, pre-production went in on December 10th of 2020. No coincidence, the same date that we saw Kathleen Kennedy announce it during the Disney Plus Investor Day of that year that we played the clip of to open this video, and then filming concurrently with the StarWars.com website on November 7th of 2022. And where were they filming? In London, England, in the UK. And even more specifically, we had news of exactly where that was. You see, that is at Shinfield Studios, about 40 miles west of London. Shinfield Studios is a brand new production facility, and once it is completed, it will have 18 sound stages. The first 4 were completed in the past year, and Shinfield Studios made public announcements that the Walt Disney Company would be one of their very first clients, and it seems like the Acolyte was among them. And we can see here some of the exterior set construction that was going on for this show during 2022. In fact, here's a couple of top-down looks from the exterior set construction done on that plot near Shinfield. So this is a show that clearly has a full budget behind it, and thanks to some recent unexpected developments, we got even more information of just how far up the food chain that it goes for anybody that bothers to actually pull the data. You see, recently we covered some news here on Valiant Renegade in the last couple of weeks where one Karyn McCarthy had filed a lawsuit against the Walt Disney Company and another defendant named in that lawsuit regarding production of The Acolyte. You see, Karyn McCarthy is alleging that she was hired and retained fully by the Walt Disney Company to do The Acolyte, to be the executive producer on the show, even having her move to London in anticipation of a multi-season show. Now, the lawsuit is another matter, but one of the pieces of information in the lawsuit revealed gave us a big glimpse into the Acolyte's corporate structure, and that was by naming BLUE Stockings Incorporated, a California-registered corporate entity, as co-party to the lawsuit. Now, who is BLUE Stockings Incorporated? Wouldn't it be great if we could get our hands on the actual corporate filings for this company to find out who they were and what they did? And oh wait, I have them. And here they are, directly from the California Secretary of State's office, BLUE Stockings US Incorporated, entity file number C4707092, and the file date of March 3rd, 2021. Now, I want you all to remember that date, because that is about 3 months after Kathleen Kennedy announced The Acolyte on December 10th of 2020 during the Disney Plus Investor Day clip that we played at the beginning of this video. But as we go to subsequent filings in that year, this from June 18th, 2021, we actually had a slate of officers and non-executive directors appointed and registered with the California Secretary of State. Let's look at the names of some of these folks. James M. Kappenstein of 500 South Buena Vista Street, Burbank, California. He works under Mr. Gutierrez, who is the Walt Disney Company's chief lawyer. And that address is indeed the C-suite of the Walt Disney Company in Burbank. How about Shakira Givazzi? She also is a legal representative of the Walt Disney Company, also in the C-suite in Burbank. And let's keep going. How about the chief financial officer of Blue Stockings Incorporated? Why, that's Carlos A. Gomez, also in the C-suite of the Walt Disney Company in Burbank, California. And if you don't know who Carlos Gomez is, why, he is the Walt Disney Company's treasurer. That's right, the chief financial officer of the Blue Stockings Company is the man who manages all of the money at the Walt Disney Company. And if you look at one more name on the list, Rhonda Hjort. Now, Rhonda Hjort is a name that probably, again, most people don't know. But Rhonda Hjort is the chief attorney for Lucasfilm Limited. And the reason that is done is to insulate other projects of the same studio from any type of legal liability should something like a lawsuit arise for one particular production. In this case, The Acolyte with Karyn McCarthy. So if everybody would stop for a moment and imagine that if Karyn McCarthy could sue the production of The Acolyte, she could then also go after the legal and financial holdings of, say, The Mandalorian, or Skeleton Crew, or The Ahsoka Show, or Andor, for that matter. No, she can't. That is why a company like Blue Stockings is formed, to insulate the production of this show, The Acolyte, from any liability from other shows that Lucasfilm is also producing. That is just, again, standard operating procedure that any competent lawyer would advise in this case. Blue Stockings is the corporate entity that was formed to create The Acolyte. And this was, again, as a reminder, made evident in the lawsuit, being named a co-defendant to Lucasfilm, according to Karyn McCarthy and her legal representatives. But there's one step further.
But wait, there's more.
Blue Stockings Incorporated would have to form a subsidiary corporate entity inside of the United Kingdom in order to become eligible to receive UK film tax credits for such production. We have seen this numerous times over, not only with Disney, but with also the productions from other studios. Recently, in the case of Disney, this was done for Ant-Man 3, whose UK production company was codenamed Pym Productions 3. This is where Disney did all of their financing for that film. Stay tuned, we'll have a video on that soon. So now that we have established the corporate lineage in California, how then do we get to the United Kingdom to where this Blue Stockings company that is producing The Acolyte would have had to have formed a corporate entity in the UK in order to get those tax credits? If only we could get our hands on the corporate documents, the corporate situs that would have created that UK company to, oh wait, we have those too! Damn! That's right. Blue Stockings Limited in the United Kingdom is real. Not to mention, it was formed less than 2 weeks after Blue Stockings was formed in California. Right here, Blue Stockings UK Limited, company identifier number 132898804, incorporation date on 24th March 2021. And as one might expect, you'll find some of the very same Walt Disney Company C-suite executives listed as officers on that company as well, in addition to some Walt Disney executives that reside in the UK that run the Disney UK operations. So at this point, undeniably, indisputably, the Walt Disney Company is inexorably linked to The Acolyte. This is a production that has been fully approved and fully funded by the Walt Disney Company at this moment by all available legal evidence for this production.
But wait! There's more!
That's right. And as if all of that wasn't enough for the doubters out there, allow me to offer this. Walt Disney Company CEO Robert Iger recently stated at a Morgan Stanley conference last week in March of 2023 that he had seen The Acolyte and that it was coming to Disney Plus in 2024, and it was, by his own admission, brilliant, quote unquote. Now, there has been some argument out there that since this has not actually been seen or heard by certain elements out there in the social media ether, that this perhaps is not actual reality. Well, here we go. I actually have Bob Iger's recording, the audio of this statement in his own words from the Morgan Stanley conference.
We're developing Star Wars films. We're going to make sure that when we make one, that it's the right one. Yeah. And so we're being really careful there. In the meantime, we've made a number of Star Wars series led by The Mandalorian that are extremely successful, and that says a lot. Just last night, I got a clip of a Star Wars series that's going to air on Disney Plus in 2024 called Acolyte that looks brilliant.
And those comments came from CEO Iger without any prompting from the audience. He was simply rambling on about future projects coming to Disney Plus, and he specifically went to this show as an example. Seems to me if he had anything at all to hide about the production of the show, he simply wouldn't have voluntarily brought it up in the first place. So at this point, unless you believe that Walt Disney Company CEO walked out on one of the most prolific and famous stages for Wall Street, for companies like Disney, that comes around each and every year and straight up lied, not only to Wall Street analysts, but investors in the Walt Disney Company at large, The Acolyte is a real property. This is where we are, because frankly, here on Valiant Renegade, our mantra has never changed in the 2 years that we have been here. Serving you, the viewers, we do the best we can. We're not always going to get everything right. We are going to be wrong from time to time. But I want people to rest assured that everything that I say here on this channel to you at the time that it's being said is in the guise of it being the best available knowledge and gut reactions in some cases at the time that we're delivering it. When we're wrong, we will admit that we are wrong. And that's never going to change, because that is the level of honesty and candor that I personally have committed to deliver to you, my viewers out there on YouTube. This is what we do here at Valiant Renegade, because at Valiant Renegade, we put all of this through the business and financial lens of reality.
These are the facts of the case, and they are undisputed.